Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good evening everybody. Hey, it's Militiaman and Crew here. We're going to get started on some wonderful stuff. It's fascinating. We go back in time once in a while and we just well, what did we do in the past that gets us to the future? And sometimes we can see that. So we go back I don't know, a few weeks ago, there was an article that dates back and says there was 41 million forged dinars that were seized by the Kurdistan region. Well, 41 million dinars isn't a lot of money, right? But what it was 41 million 25,000 notes that were seized that were forged. So why would somebody do that? They would do that because they're trying to figure out a way to game the system because they know something's changing. So it says basically that they seized a large amount of counterfeit money in the administration of the independent region. Look, it says the directorate specifically states 41.5 million forged Iraqi dinars of the category 25,000. Boom. Somebody did that because there was a belief that something's going to change. Next thing is that we have this Interpol. Okay, what do? They're looking for intelligence. So Interpol begins to pursue the assistance of. There was some communities, Makbout, Dubai, London, and Washington. And so they got together with all these guys and they said that the Interpol has begun moving to pursue 4 key officials in a deal that stole the century. Okay, the century. That's what they're talking about, the crime of the century. That's like 3.7 trillion dinar. Okay, so that's what they're talking about here. And sadly, or maybe not so sadly, it says that the Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa Kadhimi, effectively, I think it's his office. I said I think it's his office. After the authorities called on America and Britain to help arrest and extradite suspects. Huh. So, all right. So basically, they're going after stuff. So what we've been seeing in the news lately is seriously, they're going after the public entities that have been stealing from the country, and it doesn't sound like it or look like that's going to stop. So the 4 defendants that they're looking for fled. So Interpol, the United States, whoever, hey, they realize that there's been some fraud or some irregular behaviors, if you will. You decide. It says the corruption has been a staple of Iraqi politics since the U.S. invasion since 2003. That's a pretty heavy statement. So they're basically calling Iraq out. You guys have been corrupt since 2003, so it's 20 years. How are you going to act? That's kind of one of those things where they probably should say, good. But the Prime Minister basically has pledged to fight organized corruption. We can see that. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. While some of those previously attempts, they didn't work. So we're going to see this. But look, it says, look, going after stolen money and clawing it back is a process. It takes time to be able to go, who did it? How much is it? Where was it? We're going to go after it. And the fascinating part about this is that they're going after it and doing it. So that's pretty cool. Al-Sudani, his government basically states that they're taking it serious, they want to be effective, and they're taking the steps to fight the corrupt. So that's the theme now, is that, look, if you're going to go into a market economy and you're going to go and talk about being secure, safe, and do business, you're going to have to play by the international rules, you're going to have to play by many different things, and you're going to have the investors of around the world to have confidence in you. And if you don't have the investors in confidence, just like the Kuwait conference, Did that 33 billion, that 30 billion ever show up? No, they didn't do it. They weren't ready. They're not ready at that time. But at this time, they're reiterating the same thing. And basically what we're going to find is that we're going to see that we have a tripartite budget. That's Iraq, the 23, 24, 25. If you go back into my videos, you're going to find that out to be true, that they keep reiterating that same stuff. But there's also a reiteration of the serious and how serious they are about going after and stopping the fight of the corruption. And that's where you're seeing what I just talked about. So here we go on to the next thing, which is they're telling you that we have files related to issues to the Ministry of Oil. The Ministry of Oil's got some problems. The guys, whoever that is not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And then you have the ministerial guy that's from the electricity side. But the fact remains is that they have files that are related to the ministries, whether they're previous or current. They'll work to still underway, grab these files and go after it. So after a little bit of period of time, the Sudanese government, which is al-Sudani, he takes it serious, and his effective steps to fight the corrupt, prosecute them, and hold them accountable is underway. So we can see that by the arrests, we can see that by actions globally, and you can see that by the actions of investors. They're not going to invest in Iraq if they don't have these things under control. Here, basically, when you come back to it, is that the theft of the century has become an international issue. So you got to remember, some of the stuff is like in time, because what I started off with is that it's consecutive, and so we're getting closer in time. So we were back in early August, and that's why I brought it up. Is that if you go back in time, is that back in August, the beginning, and they were going after people, and here they're saying the theft of the century has become an international issue, and the countries that are around the world do not mind extraditing those involved. So Iraq has support from around the world to be able to go after those people that took all that money. So it's fascinating. And so why would they do that? It's because they know that they need to have stability and security. I'm not saying that there's other things that aren't going on in the region that are supportive too, or not supportive. But the interesting thing was today, there was, 2,500 U.S. troops showed up. Normal, possibly. 2,500 troops show up, planes, everything ready to go, coalition forces. Is that normal? Yeah, it sounds like it. However, you never know. Security and stability is the biggest key. You have an issue where Iraq is in a situation where they're going to be doing some things that are different. They're actually trying to go into a global financial system. So do they need some extra help? Are the coalition forces allowed to be there? There's some people that suggest no. But the bottom line is that they showed up. Do I like security and stability in a country where we're invested? I think so. This is particularly interesting, is that there was the theft of the century, right? We talked about that. Is it an international issue? Absolutely. Are foreign countries having a problem with it? Absolutely, because they're talking about who are involved. The local government or the Iraq's judiciary is the final arbiter in this Iraqi state through arrest warrants against the corrupt. Are they doing that? They absolutely are. So the cool part is that this is not necessarily about the Iraqi dinar jumping up in value 1,000,000 points. It just means that what they're doing here is they're setting the stage, cleaning house, which is fascinating, and all of this stuff has been done in the past, because to get to where they are today took a lot of work. They didn't just get started on this yesterday. This has been ongoing for a long period of time. Here it says, the quote is, "There is intense work in the government and the Integrity Commission to follow up on these involved in stealing the century." Well, we've known about the stealing of the century for months and months. It's not new. So they're really moving forward on it, okay? So if it's become an international issue, well, why? Well, because there's international people that are coming in. You got contracts with countries like the United States, America, Great Britain, France, European Union, China, South Korea. You all know that. So it's pretty obvious that what they're trying to do here is trying to sort this out as quickly as possible, if they haven't already, and make adjustments so that they can go into an international economy, international and global financial system. The article suggests that they have documents that Iraq requests Interpol, again, to arrest a number of members of al-Khathimi's government team. The previous prime minister, he's not, doesn't look like he's like labeled in it, but everybody in his office is. So it's like, really, you going to get through this, buddy? I think he probably will. Well, he'll get through it. He'll probably will, but the outcome, I don't know. It says that the Iraqi public prosecution sent 4 arrest warrants to the international police, Interpol, to arrest former senior officials in the former federal government on charges related to the case of theft of tax secretariats, what is known in the media as the theft of the century. 3.7 trillion dinars is a lot of money. You guys remember there was an article that came out specifically about an additional 3 trillion dinar that was stolen and returned. And those folks are in the news, I believe, to have been released. So we'll have to wait and see how that turns out. But if you think about it, 3.7 trillion, 3 trillion, at 6.7 trillion dinars that were stolen. So obviously what we're talking about tonight is they have and are working to eradicate the corruption. And who's involved? The director of the private office of the former prime minister, Mustafa Kazemi, and his advisor. They've been involved. They're probably going to have some talks. The arrest warrants were based on a book of the Federal Integrity Commission to pursue them outside Iraq. So if you've left, you took the money, they're going to come after you. Basically, it says that on August, I think it was the 6th, the Integrity Commission basically says that they called on the United States of America, the United Kingdom, in regard to the director of the office of the former Prime Minister, Mustafa al-Khathimi, the head of the intelligence service. Okay, so they're dropping his name. Whether he's involved or not, he is at the top of the list. We're going to have to watch and see how that turns off. And it just turns out, and he basically states that the involvement of the case is a theft of the century. So we'll see how that turns out. And they go on more and more on that particular topic. But the bottom line is that the talk of the street in Iraq and in political circles and others, they echo this whole problem is that we need to take care of it. And the disappearance of 3.7 trillion Iraqi dinars is not lost on the general public. So it's going to be an interesting concept to see. One thing that's going to remember is that this is part of a process. These guys are going to go after the corruption, they're going to iron it out, and they're doing it while in fact that they're also doing other things on the other side of things, like the 2023, 24, 25 budget. They're going to have to deal with that. They're going to have to be able to pay salaries. They haven't done all those things. They're going to have to be able to get to that stage of, look, are we going to do the allocations for the 2023 budget, 24, 25? Are we going to disperse that money? Are we going to spend it? They haven't done that yet. They just haven't. They're not going to be able to buy all those widgets at $1,310 to build bridges and all those different things. It just doesn't work. And they're not telling you that. Are they doing things behind the scenes that you don't know? Well, maybe. But the bottom line is it our business here in the Western world? And probably the likelihood of what I just said is that it's a true statement. It's not our business. We're not in the need to know. But is it going to be known? Of course it is. It says here that the Council of Ministers votes on the results of the evaluation of the second batch of general managers. So what do? We're talking about corruption, right? We know that there was 3 cabinet members from al-Sistani's cabinet, they were released, okay? And then now you have 60 different members, officials, that were dismissed, right? So you got to go, well, why? Well, is it because of the corruption? Well, of course. What are they doing? They've been studying these guys for a long period of time, and that's where we're at. Obviously, we have the corruption files that are arresting people. You have guys getting dismissed. You have banks. We already talked about this. If you go back into my videos, you're going to see that we already talked about the banks, Raffidan Bank. We had people that were arrested. 100 people were arrested, even, well, or more, arrested before the Raffidan Banks people were dismissed. The top people were sanctioned, not, well, or restricted in doing business, and they lost pay. So keep that in mind. So what we're at now is basically the Parliamentary Finance Committee decided to form a subcommittee to follow up on the implementation of the budget and investment projects. Okay, so we talked about money not being allocated for operational expenses. We know that the financial money, the FML, if you will, has the ability to fund certain aspects of the budget because they already got started. What we're looking for is this, to me, is the investment projects, because that's going to be going into a market economy. Those investment projects is what we're waiting for. And this particular article is fascinating because it basically is stating that they have representatives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that are going to be the people that, what's their job? Follow up, supervise the implementation of the federal general budget, food security, 2022 on, right? Food security investment projects for the Ministries of Finance and Planning and the work of the National Retirement Authority. The committee submits its report at the end of each legislative term to the Finance Committee. Of course they do, but that's what they're going to be doing. You have people that are going to be monitoring all the money. And so that's where we are. They haven't spent any money that we know of that they've been exposing for the 23, 24, 25 budget. And when they do, obviously they're going to have to give you an exchange rate. Does a 1310 work? I don't think so. If it has, and if it is going, or if it is going to work, why haven't they done it yet? We're going to find out. So, but thank you, you guys. I think we're pretty positive. I think that even though that some of this stuff sounds kind of negative, we're going to find that they needed to clean up the corruption. They needed to have the accounting ability. They need to have all these things that need to be done so that they can feel comfortable with the security and stability. You had 2,500 troops show up in Iraq within the last 24 or 48 hours. Why are they there? Well, we'll see. Did you have other factions complain today? They did. They were complaining about the fact that we have this stuff. So if you think about it, this bigger picture, this broader spectrum, you're going to find that it comes to what? That if Iraq's going to go into a market economy, what we're seeing now is powerful. It shows that we have evidence of it. If you come into Patreon, you can Google it. You can do all your own thing. You go on YouTube, you do all your stuff. But I'll tell you straight up, the data that we bring, all the articles that Samson bring us into Patreon, all the data that we analyze in Discord, the chat room, is phenomenal. Is there value? Absolutely value. So please, if you like my content, come in, check us out. And of course, if you feel comfortable to keep this site going, tap those donate buttons and help us out. Appreciate it very much. Enjoy. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content. Subscribe to the channel or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much and have a great day.